Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Los Guachipiles Wash Process Mexico from Roseline Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. And Roseline, based out of Portland, Oregon. This coffee right here was featured in our most recent blind taste test rankings video, where it did finish first place out of 4 Roseline coffees on that day. And if you watch the video, then you'll see that we were able to pick out this coffee from the other ones because of the aroma in the grounds when we were grinding the coffees beforehand, as this one had the sweetest aroma of the coffees, so we kind of assumed that it would probably be the sweetest cup of coffee on that table. And sure enough, it was not just the sweetest cup of coffee, but it was our favorite cup of coffee. So it's going to be interesting to see if this one remained our favorite cup of coffee throughout drinking all 4 of these. This right here is day 21 of this coffee. And recipe for this coffee, it's our standard recipe, a 16.671 water to coffee ratio at 205 degrees Fahrenheit, brewed through the Chemex with a medium grind. And this is a light American for the roast profile. And let's start discussing this coffee. So day 4, which was that blind taste test rankings day, and we noticed a slight bit of a subtle stone fruit in the finish, but by far the most pronounced thing was this really dark candy sweetness, this brown candy sweetness. And they have listed on here a butterscotch flavor note. Can't emphasize enough, caramel butterscotch, but most distinctly this butterscotch. This coffee just tastes like butterscotch candy. It is really impressive. It was pronounced and notable there on the first day, and consuming this coffee over time, definitely the most present thing throughout this cup, but it left a really positive first impression. Day 9 went back, and it wasn't quite as exciting as it had been the first time we tried it. It was somewhat subdued. There was a little bit more chocolate and nut components in this cup of coffee. It was still pretty sweet, but it wasn't as pronounced in the sweetness as it had been our first time around. Day 13 ran the coffee through the V60 and kind of liked it through the V60. Obviously, it's going to give it just a slight bit more texture and a little bit more body, but it also produced a strong and robust lingering sweetness in the finish as well. A fair bit of stuff in this cup as well, including some honey that we hadn't been experiencing and we didn't experience outside of the V60. So there's a little bit of honey when done through the V60, some nutty sweetness as well as some milk chocolate. So pretty standard Central American characteristics done through the V60 thing. Just liked it slightly more with a little bit more clarity through the Chemex for this coffee. Day 15 coffee was improving. This was one of the better days of the cup of coffee. Radiated a number of really sweet components, including some sweet milk chocolate as well as a pretty distinct butterscotch sweetness in the finish. And again, just really, really strong, so dominant. It's one of those things that is ridiculously clear. It won't take somebody with a sophisticated coffee palate to be able to pick this out and say, oh my god, this just tastes exactly like a butterscotch candy. Day 19, best day of the coffee to that point. It's improved on day 21 as well. This is another one of those coffees that continues to get better with a little bit more time. Milk chocolate present as ever with an increasing dark creamy candy feel to it. So I don't know, think of maybe some chocolate filled with butterscotch when you get those from like a chocolate box or something like that. That's just about as good a description as I could come up with. Subtly sweet with some fleshy fruit candy in it. Tons of sweetness. You're getting sweetness from a number of places. You're getting some really sweet chocolate, some really sweet nuts, not as pronounced in the nuts, some really sweet brown dark candy, and some really sweet fruits as well. So just so much sweetness in this cup of coffee all around. Makes it so wonderful. All right, let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we're getting. And we have 5 things at a level 4. So the cleanliness, the finish, and the sweetness. We'll talk about those real quick. Cleanliness honestly might be able to be pushed up to a level 5. I think on today you could probably justify it at a level 5. It's definitely on the higher end of a 4. Probably could justify that at a level 5. Even the caramel today you could justify it at a level 5. These things are just being amped up really heavily today. Finish, level 4, that's perfect. Sweetness, it's going to be on the higher end of the level 4, but it's definitely more justified at level 4 as opposed to something that's overly sweet. So I think those 3 things probably pretty justified at level 4. Caramel, we've just talked about, could be at a level 5. Chocolate, level 4. That seems about perfect for this. Stone fruit, level 3. It's there. It's not as pronounced. This is super brown candy dominant. Like, I can't emphasize still enough how brown candy dominant this cup of coffee is. So this stone fruit is there, but it's a little bit more tricky to pick out than something that is just dominating this cup of coffee. Let's see here. Savory, bitter, spice, florals, acid. You know, what's funny is this coffee is so good today and it's so clean today that I don't know if I can necessarily pick those things out from this coffee today as well as I could when I made this tasting wheel. Acidity level 3, I knew that was always generous the first time I made this tasting wheel, so it was probably like a 2.5. Could even push that down to a 2. This tasting wheel could look very different today. It could look very different from a couple of other days, but for the most part, the main things that are emphasized on this tasting wheel, those are the main things that you're getting from this cup of coffee. All right, overall thoughts and impressions of this coffee. You know, I have to really think about this, but this might be my favorite Mexico I think I've ever had. The clear brown candy that comes from this coffee is just spectacular. It is one of the better cups of coffee I've had this entire year. It has a pretty strong chance of finishing in the top 10 because it is a Mexico, so it's in its own category, and I can't think of a Mexico I've had ever that has been this good and clear and just so straightforward. I'm really impressed by this cup of coffee. So it started out as our favorite cup of coffee, and even with the Guatemala pushing this coffee, because the Guatemala is pretty good, this one was by far the best cup of coffee that we had from those Roseline coffees. I think this is incredible. Type of person I would suggest this coffee to. Very simple. You like your brown candy, you like your butterscotch. This one will just radiate that in ways that so many coffees that we haven't had in the past has never been close to reaching what this coffee has right here. Gushing about this coffee a lot, but I'm just really impressed right here on day 21 with how clear and distinct this coffee is. It's really nice. So I think I'm going to leave this review at that. It will be interesting to see how this coffee might stack up compared to other coffees this year. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts and impressions if you've had an opportunity to try this coffee. I think this is a real winner. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Los Guachipiles Wash Process Mexico from Roseline Coffee Roasters. Thank you for watching.